You've been trying to manifest from a courtroom, and you're the defendant, the judge, and the prison guard all at once. Every affirmation you whisper passes through a body that's still quietly convicting you for something you did 5 years ago, or 5 minutes ago. By the end of this, you'll understand why guilt is the heaviest frequency in the spiritual world, and why self-forgiveness is the doorway every teacher pointed to, and almost no one walks through. Here's what most people miss about manifestation. You can repeat the affirmation 1,000 times. You can visualize the house, the partner, the body, the bank balance. You can do the meditation every morning at 5 a.m. like a discipline. And underneath all of it, a quieter voice keeps running its own script. You don't deserve this. Remember what you did. Remember who you were. That voice is the engine of your real frequency. And the universe responds to the engine, never to the brochure. Guilt has a texture. You know it when it shows up. That tight, low pull behind the sternum. The little flinch when something good arrives. The strange instinct to push the gift away before it gets too close. You've done it. The promotion came and you found a reason to be miserable by Thursday. The relationship deepened, and you started a fight on a Tuesday afternoon for no reason you could name. That was a frequency match. Neville Goddard said it cleanly. The world is a mirror forever reflecting what you're doing within yourself. If you're punishing yourself in there, the outer world will arrive with the rod. It has to. The mirror has no opinion. It only obeys. So why does guilt cling? Because part of you believes the guilt is doing something useful. It feels like accountability. It feels like proof you're a good person who takes responsibility. The logic runs underground. If I keep feeling bad about it, I'm still a moral being. If I forgive myself, I'm letting myself off the hook. That logic sounds righteous. It's also the single most expensive belief you carry, and it's quietly bankrupting your future. Let me say what guilt actually does at the level of consciousness. It locks you into the identity of the person who did the thing. Every time you replay the memory and wince, you're casting another vote for the self who needs to be punished. Manifestation works on identity. You attract from who you are being rather than from what you're asking for. So the woman who hasn't forgiven herself for the affair, the man who hasn't forgiven himself for the years he wasted, the parent who replays one bad night on loop for a decade, all of them are broadcasting one signal underneath the affirmation. I am the one who deserves less. The Kybalion calls it the law of vibration. Everything has a frequency. Guilt sits low, resentment sits low, shame sits the lowest of all. It's the frequency that says I am a bad thing rather than I did a bad thing. And from there, you cannot reach for the version of your life that requires you to feel worthy of it. The arm is too heavy. The signal is too tangled. You feel that knot right now, reading this. The face that flashed up when I said, what you did. The memory you'd cross a room to avoid. That's the thing. That's what we're working with. Here's where the spiritual mechanics get sharp. Forgiveness is misunderstood as a feeling. People wait to feel forgiven, the way they wait to feel motivated. It rarely comes. Forgiveness is a decision and an inner act. It's the conscious refusal to keep paying the same debt twice. You already paid it the first time, in the doing and the regret. The second payment, the one you keep making with every flinch and every self-attack, is the one ruining your present. Goddard's revision technique points at this directly. You take the memory, you go back into it in imagination, you rewrite the scene as you would have wanted it to be. The point is to release the version of you that's frozen inside it, because that frozen self is still alive in your nervous system, still broadcasting. Revise her. Release him. Forgive the person who didn't know yet what you know now. Try this tonight. Find one memory, one specific scene where you turned on yourself. Close your eyes and watch it play. Then redirect the scene. See yourself acting from the wisdom you have today. See yourself receiving understanding in place of judgment. Stay in that revised scene until it feels real in your body. That's the work. It's quieter than affirmations. It moves more. You might be thinking, this sounds dangerously close to letting myself off easy. What about real wrongs? What about the people I hurt? This is the honest counterweight, and it deserves a real answer. Self-forgiveness has everything to do with releasing your own frequency, and zero to do with pretending harm didn't happen. Making amends where you can. Changing your behavior, becoming someone who would never do it again. That's the responsibility track, and it runs alongside the forgiveness track. They're different roads. You can hold both. In fact, you have to. The person locked in self-punishment rarely makes good amends. They're too busy drowning to swim toward anyone else. There's a passage in the Bible that gets quoted endlessly and understood rarely. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Heart, rather than head, deeper than your morning affirmations. The default story you tell yourself when no one is watching. If that story says, I'm the one who failed, the one who betrayed, the one who fell short, that's the frequency you live in. And that frequency cannot, by spiritual law, deliver the life of someone who believes they are worthy. This is where most people quit the work, because forgiving yourself genuinely feels like an unearned upgrade. It feels like cheating, and the ego will fight to keep the guilt in place, because the guilt is familiar and the new identity is foreign and terrifying. The discipline of mental diet that Goddard wrote about is exactly this, refusing to feed the inner accusation day after day, even when it tastes like truth. Watch what happens when you start. You'll catch yourself mid-replay and stop the loop. You'll feel the guilt rise and choose to release the grip. You'll feel a strange grief in the early days because the guilt was a companion, and now there's space where it used to live. That space is where your manifestations actually arrive. They've been waiting at the door. The door was locked from the inside. A woman I once heard speak about this said something I've never forgotten. She said the version of herself who hurt people was a person doing the best she could with the consciousness she had at the time. The moment she could look at that past self with compassion in place of contempt, her life began to rearrange itself. The clients came, the relationship she'd given up on softened, money loosened. The outer world matched the inner ceasefire. That's the part nobody markets because it's harder to sell than a vision board. The ceasefire. The end of the war you've been waging on yourself for years, that ceasefire is the manifestation. Everything else is downstream. Notice what you do with praise, with gifts, with moments of unexpected ease. Watch the impulse to deflect, to minimize, to find the catch. That impulse is the guilt speaking through your hands. Every time you accept the good thing fully, without flinching, you're voting for a new identity. Every time you receive in place of recoiling, the frequency shifts. There's a discipline to this. The mind will hand you the memory at random hours. 3 a.m., in the shower, mid-conversation. And the old reflex will be to wince and re-prosecute. The practice is to meet the memory with one steady sentence. I have already forgiven that. I am someone else now. Then return your attention to the present. You're rewriting the script of who you are in real time. It takes thousands of these small redirections. That's the inner work nobody puts in the thumbnails. James Allen wrote that men are anxious to improve their circumstances, but unwilling to improve themselves. They therefore remain bound. The improvement he meant was deeper than hustle. It was the willingness to release the inner prisoner. Most people would rather rearrange the cell than open the door. You have the key. You've had it the whole time. Self-forgiveness is the single most underrated practice in manifestation because it looks ordinary. It looks like sitting quietly and choosing, over and over, to stop hitting yourself with a story that ended years ago. It looks like letting a memory float past without rising to meet it with a fist. It looks like saying, out loud in your kitchen, where no one can hear, I forgive the version of me who did that. She didn't know. He didn't know. I know now. And here's the deepest reframe. The universe waits for congruence, never for your suffering to reach some quota. There is no cosmic debt collector tallying your hours of self-flagellation. The belief that more pain equals more worthiness is the oldest lie consciousness ever told itself. Your future is unlocked by congruence, by your inner state matching what you say you want. So the question becomes simple and uncomfortable. Are you willing to lay down the case against yourself for the life that's been trying to reach you, the one that's been knocking at a frequency you couldn't receive because you were still busy being your own jailer? Tonight, before you sleep, place one hand on your chest, speak to the part of you that's been on trial for years. Tell that part it's free to go. Mean it as much as you can. And where you can't yet mean it, mean the willingness to one day mean it. That's enough. Consciousness will take it from there. The case is closed. The bailiff has gone home. The room is empty except for you and the life you came here to live. Walk out.